Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling something huge, the world of intellectual property. How do you actually own an idea? Let's get into it. All right, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll cover why we even protect ideas. Then we'll open up the IP toolkit to see the different tools you can use. After that, we'll talk about the limits. It's not a free-for-all. We'll get into some real strategy, and then, just to make sure we're all on the same page, we'll bust a few common myths. First up, Section 1, protecting your ideas. So think of this as the foundation. Why do we even have these rules? Well, it's all about building, a kind of fortress around creativity. The goal is to protect creators, sure, but also to give them an incentive to keep inventing and creating new things for all of us. It's a huge question, right? How do you own an idea? You can't exactly put a fence around a thought. Well, the answer is this legal concept we call intellectual property. So what IP law does is it lets you own stuff you can't physically hold. Things like inventions, brand names, even a song you wrote. And the whole point of this system is to give people a real financial reason to create. If you know you can benefit from your hard work, you're probably going to create more. And that stimulates innovation for everybody. Okay, so now that we've got the why down, let's get into the how. This is where it gets really practical, because you can't protect every idea the same way. We're going to open up what I like to call the IP toolkit and look at the 4 main tools. And trust me, each one is for a very different job. First up in the toolkit, patents. Let's say you invent a brand new gadget or some kind of revolutionary new material. A patent is what gives you the exclusive right to make it, use it, and sell it for a set period, which is typically 20 years. It's kind of like building the tallest, strongest walls of that fortress we talked about, specifically for inventions that do something. Next, we've got copyright. Now, this is cool. It kicks in automatically. The second you write a book, snap a photo, or even write a line of code, boom, it's copyrighted. The key thing to remember here is that it protects the expression of your idea, not the idea itself. It basically gives you the final say on who gets to copy, share, or perform your work. And then there are trademarks. This is all about branding. Think of a famous logo or a catchy brand name. A trademark is what stops other companies from using something similar and confusing customers. It's really about protecting your reputation and making sure people know exactly who they're buying from. And the last tool in our kit is the trade secret. This is exactly what it sounds like. Valuable info you keep under wraps. The most famous example, of course, is the Coca-Cola formula. Now, what's wild is that a trade secret can last forever, unlike a patent. But, and this is a big but, it offers zero protection if someone else figures out your secret on their own, fair and square. Okay, seeing it all laid out like this in a table really makes the differences pop. You can see the trade-offs, right? A copyright is pretty much automatic, but to get a patent, your invention has to be new, useful, and non-obvious. That's a high bar. And just look at how long they last. A patent gives you a powerful 20-year monopoly, but then it's over. A trade secret could last forever, but only if you can keep it a secret. It's pretty clear that picking the right tool here is a massive strategic call. All right, so you've used these tools, you've built your fortress, but here's the thing. Those rights aren't absolute. You can't just build walls so high that nobody else can create anything. There has to be a balance, A balance between the creator's rights and the public's need to access and build on those ideas. And that brings us perfectly to our next section, fair use. Fair use is, it's an absolutely crucial safety valve in copyright law. Without it, the whole system could backfire and actually stop creativity instead of encouraging it. It's the reason a movie critic can show a clip in a review, or a professor can hand out copies of an article for a class discussion. It's just common sense, really. So how do you know if something is fair use? Well, there's no simple checklist. Instead, courts use this 4-factor test, and they weigh everything on a case-by-case basis. It's a real judgment call. They're looking at things like, did you transform the original into something new? How much of it did you actually use? And the big one is often number 4. Are you hurting the original creator's ability to make money from their work? This is where we start to get into some really next-level thinking. We're moving beyond just the legal rules. In Section 4, we're going to stop looking at IP as just a shield to hide behind and start seeing it for what it really is, a powerful, strategic tool for your business. Yeah, the standard playbook for IP seems pretty straightforward, right? You get your patent or copyright, you build the highest walls you possibly can, you lock out all your competitors, and you jack up the prices. The goal seems to be just to grab as much market power as you can. But is that always the best strategy?
It turns out that going all in on market power can have some serious downsides that a lot of people just don't see coming. Sometimes, building that giant wall around your idea is actually the worst thing you could do.
Let's look at some real-world examples. When Procter & Gamble went hard on patenting its white strips, it basically backed Colgate into a corner. So what did Colgate do? They dropped their prices like a rock, which ended up hurting profits for everyone in the market, including P&G. Or think about Apple's early days with the Mac. Their closed system let the more open Wintel standard take over the whole industry, shrinking the potential market for Apple's own software. It's crazy, right? Focusing only on capturing value can actually end up destroying it.
And all this leads to a pretty counterintuitive but really powerful idea. Sometimes the smartest, most profitable thing you can do with your intellectual property is to share it.
The really savvy companies get this. They don't just see one option, they see a whole menu. Sometimes they'll just sell a patent outright if another company can do more with it, or they'll license their tech, like Monsanto did with its seeds, to help the whole market grow. Other times, they'll collaborate with competitors to set an industry standard, and in some cases, they even just give it away. Merck put its gene database into the public domain to speed up research for everyone, and pretty cleverly, to stop rivals from patenting those genes themselves. All right, to wrap this all up, let's do a quick lightning round. We're going to bust a few common myths about IP, just to make sure we're leaving with the clearest picture possible. Okay, myth number 1, and this is a biggie. A US patent protects me everywhere in the world. Nope, not even close. IP rights are territorial. That means your US patent is great in the US. If you want protection in Japan or Germany, you gotta go file for a patent there too.
Here's another one I hear all the time. My patent covers how my product looks. Well, it depends. A standard utility patent, that's the most common kind, protects how something works, its function. If you want to protect how something looks, its cool, unique shape or style, you need a totally different tool from the toolkit. That's called a design patent.
So when you take a step back and look at the whole picture, it's obvious that IP isn't some one-size-fits-all shield. It's way more interesting than that. It's a dynamic, strategic game of trade-offs. And maybe the best takeaway here is to stop thinking about IP as a simple lock on a door and start seeing it as a whole keychain full of sophisticated keys. Each one unlocks a different kind of value in a totally different way. And that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. We live in a world where technology is just blurring all the creative lines. We have AI that can generate incredible art, music, even inventions. So as the very nature of creation changes, maybe our idea of ownership needs to change with it. In a world like that, who should really own an idea?